Hey everybody, EC Rooster here of TheOrdinaryGamer.com, along with, of course, the always front bump, the biggest front bump in the room, Mr. Foender. If you don't know what a front bump is, it's kind of like the male camel toe. Got the biggest front bump. I don't know where I'm going with this. Today we're going to be playing Hardline, the new Battlefield. Really it's called Battlefield Cops and Robbers, that's what they should have called it. We're trying to get online, and Ender was having the hell of a time logging in.
It's EA, man. It's EA. I cannot stand that shit.
What was going on there?
It asks me for an online ID. I have an online ID for EA. I push it in there, and it says that already exists. No shit, it already exists. I own it. It belongs to me. They make me create a new one. Everything's already fucking taken. And then it's just a pain in the ass to have to do that, and for a beta on top of everything else, for a beta.
Like,
just
I'm really
let people
surprised.
Try the fucking game.
Well, of course, it's EA. I'm really surprised EA just doesn't charge people to use the beta. They're just like, hey, yeah, you can play the beta for $1.99, and or hell, they'll recover your name for you.
Listening to this, they will do that.
Yeah, EA. EA's gonna take my idea, and they're gonna start charging people $1.99 to play betas. It's going to be a great time. So what we're going to do here is we're going to try the squad join, see if this works. And you're going to watch me play, and of course you're going to watch Ender die a lot, because Ender sucks at video games. I don't know why he plays them.
Honestly, I'm not a Battlefield fanboy, and I have not touched this beta. I'm going into this blind, so just so you guys know.
I have no life this beta. I have only been playing beta. Like, I've actually got my name legally changed to EC Beta. Is what's going to be happening. And because EC Rooster is my real name in real life, I don't... You know, obviously. Anyways, it's been a good day. I think Ender's gonna have a great time, being as he's already pissed off at the game. So this should be a fun time doing Bank Job.
By the way, the male equivalent to the camel toe, according to Big Cameron, is the stag knuckle.
The stag knuckle. I've never heard that one, but yeah. I can see that, the stag knuckle. I just like the term front bump. Because I feel like he'd be like, front bump me, bro. You know, when you're with your bros, you just be like, front bump me. And you guys just, you touch your bumps. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you just touch your bumps. Anyways, talking about front bumps, let's go into the first thing today. Nintendo, for those of you who love Nintendo, they have they're creating something called the Creators Program, which essentially is an ad revenue sharing service for people who use like YouTube channels. You know, when you do like a YouTube video game, or you talk about a Nintendo video game on your YouTube. Well, I'm dying. Nintendo is pretty much saying that YouTube users can get 60% of their ad revenue if they use a pre-approved Nintendo game that's advertised, and they have like a list of them. And you also will get 70% of the advertising revenue if your entire YouTube channel is pre-approved, which means that you only can talk about Nintendo games. Granted, you know, they own the copyrights to their IPs. They can easily do this. They can sit there and, you know, tell people, well, if you want to make money off of us, you have to, you know, talk about what we want to talk about, and we'll give you a certain percentage of it. But at the same time, do you think maybe it actually will limit their audience? Because I think of people like PewDiePie or Markiplier, and when they play certain video games, the sales for those video games have been proven to increase because of their advertising, essentially, of the game.
Well, they're definitely hurting themselves. That's all they're doing, is hurting themselves. It's free advertising. It's free publicity. Whenever somebody puts a YouTube video up with, you know, some epic thing on Mario Kart that they did, or whatever it might be, that's good for them. I mean, that gets people talking about it. Everybody that watches that just gave them publicity for free.
See, that's what I think.
I don't know why they are so stingy with their whole view on YouTube. I think is just completely ass backwards. I like Nintendo, but I don't understand why they make it so hard for people to share their stuff and put their games in their content. Like, they look at it as missed revenue, but nobody's looking at their YouTube videos. You know, nobody's looking at Nintendo's YouTube videos. Nobody cares about them.
Maybe that's the problem. Nintendo is losing that advertising revenue because you have these people with these bigger market bases, like PewDiePie, who has like the most followers on YouTube. You know, they probably look at that and they think, well, hell, you know, they're cutting into our money by using our product. I'm not saying I disagree with their right intellectually, you know, to have the copyrights to their IPs. But yeah, I do think it's kind of ridiculous how you don't You know, how you would sit there and pretty much limit your market base and say, yeah, you can talk about our games, you'll get 60%, and you may or may not be able to talk about it because it may not be approved. We really only, and that means they probably really only want to talk about like their new games. You know what I mean? They probably don't want you going back and talking about old Mario, which I hope we don't get sued for talking about that period now. Yeah, that's what it is.
They don't want you talking bad about their games. They want to make sure that you're only going to say good things about their games, and then you have a share of the profit. But what's funny is it's not you, them giving you a share of the profit. It's you giving them a share of your profit. It's your YouTube channel. You're the one that made the content, and yet they're the ones that get to just come in and take 30 or 40% of that. I mean, that's stupid to me. I don't know.
But at the same time, you made your entire Sorry, man. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I own my game. I own my TV. I don't understand why I have to give them profit from me capturing something on my own TV with my own system, with my own game. You know what I mean?
Because I think in their mind, your content though is their creation. You know, you're not just talking about any game. You're talking about a Nintendo game, and so they're trying to like. You know, they're saying, well, hey, you're using our games to make your money. But of course, they're also pretty much saying you can't make money if you don't only talk about our games at all. I don't know. I think
like every single unboxing ever done, the guys that own the product could say, you can't do an unboxing without giving us some money. You know, that's our product. Or, hey man, I saw my couch. I saw my Bob Mills couch in the background on your video. That's my couch. You know, I created that couch. You can't have my couch in your video without giving me some money. That's just,
well, I mean,
that's stupid. It's ridiculous.
I think it is. I agree. I think it's the most ridiculous thing Nintendo could do, especially because they're struggling in the market right now, in the console market. They're struggling. You know, to be a gaming company, they are struggling. They need to just admit that. And
what's
like,
funny is
in
they're
comparison,
struggling because of their piss poor marketing. And things like that just go to make it worse, you know?
I agree. I mean, somebody needs to tell Nintendo, hey, you're right, you have the right to do that, but you also got to, you know, let people kind of, in this instance, it's only going to benefit you. You know, it's only going to benefit you to give up a little bit of that income. Because it's been proven, there are statistics that show, like especially with indie games, who have no marketing, that by being on a PewDiePie channel, even if he's making fun of the game, people want to play it because he looks like he's having such a blast playing it that they become curious. Like it's just an interesting thing. It's a way to market, and it's a new way to market. And I feel like, you know, Nintendo's just going that route of like, we're old. We don't understand the way the new kids do it. We don't understand the way this generation does things. They share. All they do is share and share and share and share. I just save these guys' lives.
Yeah, they're a little antiquated, I guess, but they really need to get with it with this whole thing. It gets really, it frustrates people. You know, whenever you have to explain to people the difference between a Wii and a Wii U because they didn't know that a Wii U was a completely different console because Nintendo's marketing is pitiful and terrible, and they didn't get the message out. And then they don't want to let people on YouTube make videos to put their product on there to explain it to people because their marketing and their explanation sucks. The whole thing is just bass backwards. That's the best way I can put it.
They're just getting very scared. It's the sign of a scared company when they start locking down all of their products. They start locking down, you know, like you see it.
They don't want people talking bad about it, so they're just like, oh well, you can't post a video of my stuff unless you're going to talk good about it. Make sure you talk good about it and you can work something out.
Yeah, and you can also only get 60% if it's an approved game. They just want complete control over everything. And it's because I think they're suffering, you know, in the console sales. And that's pretty much what they are. They're a console company. You know, Nintendo does not make, you know, anything but their handheld games, which do well. They have that market. But, you know, they don't make TVs. They're not like Sony, who actually is suffering big time as a company, which is my next thing to talk about. Sony, they projected their loss back in October, that they were going to lose $1.96 billion for their quarter. But turns out they readjusted those numbers, and they've only lost $1.45 billion. And the reason they didn't lose as much is because of the PlayStation 4, PlayStation Vita, and all their software sales doing really, really, really well. And what I wonder is, do you think because Sony is doing so well in the gaming division but suffering everywhere else, that they'll be like Nintendo and become a gaming exclusive company? Do you think they'll still make TVs and electronics?
I don't see that happening. They got too much tied into everything else for them to just dip out of it. I think honestly, what I worry about, what I think might end up happening, is Sony's gonna go bankrupt and they're gonna sell the PlayStation brand to make ends meet, basically. Either that or what you said will happen. They'll drop everything else. They'll go bankrupt and they'll just keep the PlayStation, since it did well for them this time, and see where that gets them.
You see, I feel like the opposite will happen. I feel like what they're going to do is they're going to look at their numbers, they're going to say, hey, we're really, really, really freaking stinking rich. Kinda. And then they're going to say, well, let's keep the thing that's our cash cow, and let's sell off everything else. Like, they're going to sell off their TV division to Microsoft or something. You know, they're going to sell off, you know, like their, you know, I don't know, what else is Sony? VCRs? People still watch VCRs? Am I really that old? They're going to sell out the Sony Beta, the Sony Beta division, the Sony 8-track division.
People listening to this have never seen a VCR tape.
They don't know what that is. VCR, they thought that was like wasn't that VCR Troopers? Wasn't that the name of the show? That's what they probably think when they hear VCR. Yeah. Like, is that also dated? Like VR Troopers, is that too old to be talking about? Like, am I really that old? Am I as old as Nintendo right now? I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm an old man. I'm an old fogey. Well, that just like skipped down really quickly. I don't know. I feel like I'm happy for PlayStation in a sense, but I also think, you know what would save you money? Make a cheaper, more affordable TV. How about that? Instead of charging $1,000 for your TVs, you know, go the route of the third-party TV companies like Vizio and make cheaper, high-quality TVs. Like, maybe that would like, but I don't know. That's not has nothing to do with video games.
I mean, Sony makes great TVs. The problem is they're too expensive. You know. So yeah, I mean, they would have to lower the prices a lot. I would definitely, if a Sony TV costed, you know, $40, $50 more than a Vizio, I'd definitely get one. Why not?
I would. I mean, I trust the Sony brand. I mean, they've never really led me astray. I mean, I guess if I'm gonna have an overlord, you know, if it's gonna be like overlord, it's gonna be Google and probably Sony would be my overlords. Like, you know, you're gonna have a corporate overlord at some point that's gonna tell you to do their bidding, and you're gonna have to lick their boots and, you know, wave them with those giant fans. And I think Sony, I would totally do it. I'd kiss Sony's butt, but only if they made something cheaper. I just can't do, you know, the average person just cannot do these $1,000 TVs. I mean, maybe the average rich person can, but...
Well, $1,000, I mean, no, on average, depending on the TV you get, on average, just like if you buy a 55-inch Vizio, you're gonna pay $700. For the same TV with a Sony name tag on it, it's gonna be, you know, 14 or 15. So it's not like it's too expensive to afford, but there's no reason to spend that much more. You know what I mean? That's what hurts them with Sony products.
I'm so sorry. I'm so intense. I'm so quiet. I'm so intensely trying to destroy these guys, these noobs on this other team. I'm so like so lost.
These live streams, it's harder. I just stopped paying attention to the game completely because
yeah, you just die over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, these guys are probably watching you and like, oh man, this guy is terrible at video games.
He's the worst at this game in the world.
I mean, when you're talking and trying to keep track of what you're saying and playing and try to play well. The only game that I've learned to do that well on is Call of Duty, just because I can just play that and kill while I talk all the time. That's how I play that game. You know, you get online with some friends and you get in a party chat and run around killing shit. With this game, I don't know the maps. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm still trying to figure out how you know which ones are the bad guys.
Yeah, they all look the same in this game. That's something we can talk about later, I guess. But anyways, trying to get back on track. Trying to understand what I'm talking about. I'm totally lost right now. I think I have no blood going to my head. I'm just sitting here like staring at a screen. I'm like a zombie. Speaking of positives for PlayStation, it turns out PlayStation is having a sale on all of their Resident Evil collection for PS3 across every platform. Every Resident Evil game essentially is on sale now. For those of you who love remasters, who love playing the same old shit, you know, you can buy Resident Evil 2 for $2.99, Resident Evil 3, Nemesis for $2.99, Darkside Chronicles HD for $7.49, Umbrella Chronicles HD for $7.49. The list goes on and on. Resident Evil 4 is $6.99. This just gives you an idea. They're pretty much saying, hey, get rid of all these games. Do you think that this is just a way to like make some extra money on their old games because they're about to do? They already did the remaster. Oh, by the way, the HD, the remaster of the original Resident Evil is not on sale. It is still $20 or $19.99 digital download if you want it. But do you think that they're trying to say that they're going to change Resident Evil? Do you think that's what they're trying to say here, or is it just a sale?
Resident Evil, no, they're just doing a sale. They're trying to push it as well as they can. Resident Evil, they're trying to make it go back towards. I guess Resident Evil 6 was a flop. It wasn't really a Resident Evil game. So that Resident Evil Revelations 2 is supposed to be trying to go back to that kind of horror survival feel. You know, that Resident Evil was really good at it in the beginning. But that's why they decided to name it Resident Evil Revelations 2, because they wanted it to be associated in people's minds more with Resident Evil Revelations than Resident Evil 6, because nobody apparently liked Resident Evil 6. I honestly can't say I ever played it. I actually own it, bought it, and never even stuck it in my PS3, so I don't know too much about that, but
as far as
the remake, that was definitely the best Resident Evil. I agree.
Like I say, it depends on what you want. Like when I played Resident Evil 6, it's several different stories. You get like, you know, all the like Chris's story, Leon's story. You get bunch of different stories. It's really just a shooter. It's kind of like Resident Evil 4 after you beat the game and you get all those unlocks. It's kind of like that part of Resident Evil 4, over and over and over and over and over again. The thing I think is they're trying to go back to survival horror, not because they're trying to change the game and say, hey, we're the originators or whatever. I think it's because they realize that's what gamers are playing now with Last of Us, with Evil Within. You know, you can see it in games. Games are becoming more and more survival horror-esque, you know, Alien Isolation kind of.
Resident Evil fans were going into it expecting something more like a horror survival game. I mean, they're the ones that really kind of perfected it in the beginning. And they've been kind of slowly going more and more commercial, more and more easy. So people, I guess, trying to broaden their market share, their consumer base, whatever you want to call it, dumb it down, as it were. But it just doesn't work. When you set yourself up as a survival horror game and you start going more and more easy, it takes away your real hardcore fan base, and that's the mistake.
I think what people don't realize though, and like, there was a big push in the Japanese arcade world back in the day, which they have a huge gaming society in Japan, that they love like the first-person shooter games. Like they love like those games that remember the old LA Crisis? I think that's what it was called, or the Time Crisis games. And there was the LA where you had like to fly as like a robot, and essentially you're just aiming around a crosshair and you're just kind of shooting at the screen. For some reason, like, Japanese people have always loved those types of games, and you saw that implemented in a lot of the Resident Evil games. Part of me feels like they just started going towards a more Japanese base of player, and also they probably assume Americans like guns. You know, Call of Duty's huge, you know, here, not huge really anywhere else. They probably just assumed, you know, people wanted shooters, and I guess, you know, Resident Evil 4 really changed the game, and they did it so well. And Resident Evil 2 as well actually was kind of a shooter. It was kind of that weird blend, I guess, if you remember it on the PS1.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I guess
one more down.
It's evolved so much that it's hard to say where it went wrong or where it went right. I'll say that the first 3 games for me were really good, and those were that kind of more survival horror based, not so much a shooter, but surviving game. I mean, you have guns, but if you have 10 bullets, you're very judicious with those bullets. You want to save those as much as you can. Whereas, you know, you play what was that other Resident Evil? The one before Resident Evil 6.
Resident Evil 5.
No.
I have no idea. They have so many Resident Evils. I mean, I feel like
Resident Evil Rehab, or I forget what the fuck it was. But I mean, you're constantly shooting in there. There's absolutely no scarcity of ammo, and then they just, it feels like they just made a first-person shooter and just slapped the Resident Evil's name on there just to make it sell. And I think they need to just stick to one style of gaming. Anything from Resident Evil 1 to Resident Evil 4, you can do that, but they keep going too far with it and making it a completely different game, and it's just, I think that's a mistake.
Well, I agree. I think they just looked at the brand and they said, hey, we can put, like, Resident Evil was such a successful franchise that we can just put it on anything. Resident Evil butter, Resident Evil pancakes, you know, Resident Evil like pillowcases, Resident Evil daycare. You know, I just feel like, you know, like they just thought like, well, it's a cash cow. We can do whatever we want. But what you don't realize,
it was at first.
You ruin your brand after a while.
Yeah, exactly. At first that probably worked. They were like, dude, we can just put Resident Evil on this game, Resident Evil 5, and people will buy it. You know, because it's Resident Evil. And then people bought it, they were like, what the okay, you know, kind of paused. They put on that other Resident Evil that I can't remember the name of.
Resident Evil butter.
Yeah. People kind of like, what the hell is this? And then when 6 came out, apparently that just broke their back. Nobody was buying 6, and that's when they start to care. Wait a minute, nobody's buying this. You know, they didn't care when people were saying this game isn't very good, this game is not what Resident Evil does. They cared when people said, okay, screw it, I'm not buying the next one. That's when they paid attention. That's when they decided, okay, we need to backtrack. We need to change some stuff. That's what we need to do more often. Honestly, is like when people pull out bullshit. You know, these I wouldn't say the developers so much as the publishers. When they put out this bullshit, just don't buy it. You know, vote with your wallet and make them do the things that do what works based on their customer base. They're gonna, as long as you buy it, they're gonna keep putting out the same shit. They're not gonna adjust. Why should they? Why should they have to? Look at Call of Duty. People buy it every fucking year, so they just keep making it exactly the way it is. And you know, and if you ask them, why are you making this crap every year? Like, people are buying it every year. I'm giving people what they want. You know, if they didn't want it, they wouldn't be buying it.
Yeah, people feel like, I think our generation thinks that we can get online, we can write something, we can complain and create a list, create like a little you know, what's the list where they just sign your name as though it's going to change the world. You know, they get on there and they do that.
A petition.
Yeah, they make a petition. And then they still go out and buy the game, and they don't realize that the thing you vote with most is your wallet. You don't vote.
Yeah.
You don't vote with your vote. Like even politics, you vote by the PACs you pay for, the politician you decide to give money to. You don't vote with, you know, good feelings in your heart or whatever. You know, you vote with like, are you? I don't think you're in this game with me. I'm gonna back out. I don't want to play by myself.
I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. That game, maybe that's just a beta, but I did not like it at all. So I just kind of like sat it down and just started paying attention to what we were saying.
Well, I guess maybe I gotta play something since people are watching. I don't want to offend
anybody. If you're a big Battlefield fan, or if you're, you know, loving this beta, I don't want to offend anybody, but it's just not for me. It's not my cup of tea. I wasn't enjoying it at all. Everybody looks. It looks like Counter-Strike kind of.